Yeah, man. Next month, I don't remember the guys' names, so I apologize. But Pulev and Chad Dawson both have fights coming up against MMA fighters, essentially. So
Then
that's
the
something
Pull-up's the
to
one that just fought.
Frank Mir. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chad Dawson's coming out of retirement to fight somebody as well. It's going to be a whole event, so that's something to be on the lookout for, or not, depending.
He's fighting Junior Dos Santos.
Yes, that's right. I like Junior Dos Santos, man. I don't want that for him.
So who's putting on these fights?
That one was an outfit I'd never heard of.
And Chad Dawson's fighting Vitor Belfort.
There you go.
Yeah. For Triad Combat.
Triad Combat.
Okay.
No, I'm not familiar with them, but I mean,
they're both on Triad. Yep. They're both on Triad. I don't know who runs that.
Somebody shady getting these guys.
I'm looking at right now. Triad Combat. Triller.
Oh, okay.
Triller announces Triad Combat 2 fight card.
Shady indeed.
Here we go. Ring Kings Podcast, episode 2. We're still here, guys. We made it.
Yeah. And we upgraded. Look behind me. Well, I'm actually in the gym, y'all. I'm taking a break.
That's right.
From my workout, so we could do this show. But
yeah. The hat's covered up the sweat.
I really hope y'all like that intro music too, because
for it. Shout out to Verse, man. Verse is our guy, man. Like, look, if you like our beat that we have on Lunch Break Hot Take, if you like the beat that Mikey has on Off the Record Podcast, it's the same guy. He does all of our beats, man. So make sure you give him a follow at Verse Gbos, VERSGBOS on Twitter and Instagram. I think it's the same. So yeah, man. All right, look, I guess Happy New Year is in order, because when we first did the first episode, that was right before New Year's. So now we're in 2022. Not a whole lot has changed since our first episode, but we have a couple of things to talk about. We want to talk about Mikey Garcia doing Mikey Garcia things on social media.
Yes.
We want to talk about we want to the Ortiz and Charles Martin fight, which was
you mean Ryan Garcia, right?
What did I say?
Mikey.
I keep saying Mikey Garcia. I'm sorry, Mikey Garcia. Like, I don't want to confuse you with Ryan Garcia, but obviously, like, you're my favorite Garcia fighting right now. Okay? I love Mikey Garcia. I like Dan Garcia too, man. There's some
Garcia, bros.
Yeah. I respected them. Ryan Garcia is the bad Garcia.
He learned it from Oscar, who is also doing Ryan Garcia things on social media.
Yeah. So we look, obviously there ain't a lot of news going on, but we still have a lot to talk about. All right. And we're going to talk about, boxer safety. When is it the right time to call a fight? When is it too early? We're going to kind of give some examples and kind of draw the line. And look, let's start with Ortiz and Martin, right? Because not Martin. Yeah, Martin. Was it Martin?
Yeah, Charles
Martin. Yeah, Ortiz and Martin, because that kind of led us into this conversation. So they fought last weekend, and it was looking good for the boy Martin for a minute, right? He scored 2 knockdowns. I wouldn't say he hurt Ortiz, but he scored 2 knockdowns, and they were clear score knockdowns. That's the best way to put it, right? Balanced shots. Ortiz wasn't really hurt, but look, man, like, you get hit, you slip, fall, it's a knockdown. So Martin's up big. And honestly, the way the fight was going, you're thinking Martin might take this because, like, Ortiz wasn't really pushing the pace that much outpointing him that much in a fight to really, steal those other rounds. But then Martin just gets hit. I think it was a hook, and My man literally did not remember where he was. He dropped his hands. He looked away from Ortiz.
Yes.
Just looked out in the crowd like, who are you guys?
Not a
Where
glance,
am I?
mind you. He just turned and was scanning the crowd, and he just kept on doing that until he got punched in the face again.
Yes. Yes.
And
So-
then he went down. He got his arm tangled up in the ropes.
Yep.
And the ref said, "Man, you better get back in here and keep on fighting."
Now he did. I think at that point when he got his hand tied up in the ropes, he kind of woke up and he was complaining to the ref, like, cause I think he was afraid the ref was going to stop the fight. He's like, "Look, my hand's caught, man. I can't get up." So the ref said, "Okay, I'm gonna let you get up." I heard him say, "It's like, don't worry, I'm gonna let you get up." So he untangled his hand and he said, "All right, are you good?" And he's like, of course he says yes, because that's what fighters are trained to say. And he got put down again and ref stopped the fight. But my thing was, the minute he dropped his hands and looked away from his opponent, that's it. Like that's it. Like, because Ortiz, I think it kind of stunned him too, because I think he was waiting to see if there's going to be like a stoppage or a count or something like that. But if Ortiz was just like, "Yo, I'm going to hurt this dude," just went in, like he could have caused some serious damage if he went in and like really tried to land that finishing blow. Once a fighter puts his hands down like that, like you could tell. I mean, he was hurt. He got hit. He didn't know where he was at, and his hands are down. That's it for me. That's when I would stop the fight. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, once you drop your hands, I mean, obviously that puts you in a defenseless position, right? But on top of that, I mean, clearly he was knocked into another place. I mean, it's not funny, but I was teasing that, hey, he thought he might have been in the grocery store. He got knocked into the back when he went to Wegmans before the fight or something like that. But I mean, to Brodny's point, I mean, it wasn't a glance. Like, he was literally looking the opposite direction.
Yeah.
And that in itself could have gotten really, really ugly. So I don't know, man. Like, I was thinking about it, and I'm like, there's been cases where, and you hear it a little bit more now, where fighters they're leaving trainers or whatever the case because they felt this fight was stopped too soon, or they want to go out on their shield. And I don't know if the refs feel the pressure to give. This was a pay-per-view fight, right? And that was the main card. So it's like, I mean, it being a pay-per-view in itself is a little like, okay, come on. Like, I mean, I like Ortiz, but it's pay-per-view.
Right.
So I don't know if the refs are feeling like they got to hold on to these fights as long as they can to sell the product. But it was bad. It was definitely bad.
But yeah, so I'm sure there is a little bit of that where the referees are like, yeah, this is kind of it's a big event. Like you said, it's a pay-per-view. These fans came out to see a fight and kind of wanting to give that show. I mean, in other fights, where guys aren't necessarily hurt, you've seen referees kind of encourage them to get in the fight and actually do something, right? Which, I mean, I think is kind of inappropriate, but they do it because, hey, the fans are here. The fans are going to be mad. They paid this money to see y'all fight. You ain't fighting. Get in there. And I think there was, probably a little bit of that. And, in this case, I think the ref might have been just a little confused as well because, I mean, he got punched in the face and then he's looking out there like he recognized somebody in the crowd. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't want to say he didn't look hurt. I mean, he looked hurt, but it was an odd reaction, not a reaction that you really see from fighters, right? Because like you said, it's like he didn't realize where he was anymore. Like, he didn't know that Ortiz was in front of him. He didn't know that next punch was coming. He was just looking off at whatever he was looking at. But that's why, the referees are professionals too. That's why they're paid to be in there. You have to protect the fighter. And you can see very clearly in that case that he's not in a position to protect himself anymore.
Yeah, because one of the announcers was saying, like, as soon as Ortiz went in and started hitting him again, he was like, it's over. Like, he's done. It's over. Like, he recognized it, right? They recognized when he got hurt. They're like, oh, I think he's hurt, right? So even if initially the ref's not sure what's going on, once you realize it, just stop it.
Yeah.
Right. Get in there and say, no. Like, just stop it.
Right. At the very least, and I'm not sure if they have it where they were fighting, but you have a standing 8 count. So if you're not really sure, you can jump in there and say, hey, I'm gonna, I'm counting you out, giving you the 8 count, and just see where he's at from that point on. But it's not an option to just hang back and say, man, I wonder where this is gonna go. Let's find out.
Yeah. So I mean, okay. So this is kind of leads into our main. Do you want to go to that now? Or you want to? Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's go into our what do we want to call these things? Our topic for the month. We'll figure it out, I guess.
Yeah.
Our topics for the month. Okay, look, our new audience, you're just gonna have to you're gonna grow with us here. Okay.
Of course they are.
we have topics, monthly topics that we kind of want to discuss, issues or just questions or whatever that we want to present to you guys. So we'll ask you, when's a good time? When's the right time for a stoppage? Because sometimes a fight is stopped too early, right? Or we think it's too early, and we're mad because we feel like we've been robbed of the fight. Obviously, the fighter's mad because he felt like he was in the fight. When is a good time for you? Like, because it's hard. It's one of those things that's hard to gauge. Like we were watching videos earlier of fights that were stopped too early, and a lot of them clearly they were too early. And then we saw some videos of fights that were stopped way too late.
Yeah. In some of the videos, the fighters are hurt, right? But not to the point where you're watching them and saying, man, they've got to get in there. They got to stop this. He's going to get seriously injured. These guys get wobbled and they're still moving around. They're still trying to defend themselves. They're still trying to fight back. And I think it's tough to determine when to really jump in. For me, the answer is always early is better than late, obviously. But we had the fight with Meldrick Taylor and Julio Cesar Chavez was one of the ones that we were looking at, and Taylor had been winning the fight, and then in the last round, very near the end of the fight, he gets dropped, but he gets up, and he beats the count. He's standing there, he's fine, and the referee jumps in and stops it with about 5 seconds left in the fight, and kind of robbing him of a win. Right. Yeah. And it's one of those things where you got to use judgment, right? Yeah. You're always trying to protect the fighters, but you have to use a little bit of judgment as well. Yeah. It is a competition. They are out there, like they're putting months of their lives into, years, obviously just in the sport, but months into this particular fight. It's one of the biggest fights of his career. He may be hurt. He may still be hurt, and Julio's going to be coming hard after him, but it's 5 more seconds. You got to look at yourself and say, right. he can avoid this guy for 5 seconds to get to the bell.
Yeah. And at least do the standing 8 count to say, hey, can you go engage him and kind of gauge where he's at.
Well, in that case, he was knocked down. He got up. He got the count, right? And he beat the 10 count. He's standing there in the corner. Yeah. And then the rest of you know what? No, we're done.
Yeah. Because so. Like one of the biggest ones that stands out to my mind was, and I talked to B about it earlier, Diego Corrales versus Luis Castillo, right? Mm-hmm. Castillo, he had put Corrales down a couple times during the fight, and it looked like he was just in the driver's seat. And Corrales, he was known for this. He just had heart. Like he can get put down constantly, but get back up. And this is one of the greatest comebacks in boxing, right? Yeah. Because he was getting beat, and he fought back, and just out of nowhere he catches Castillo, and Castillo's hurt bad, and he's up against the ropes. I'll never forget it because Castillo, it looked like he got hurt a little bit, and then the ref just came in and stopped it. And I was thinking, man, why did you stop it for Castillo, but you didn't stop it for all those times Corrales got knocked down? Well, it's because there's a difference between, hurt and hurt, like can't defend yourself hurt. Right. And Castillo was in a position where he was out on his feet, basically, and he could not protect himself, right? Yeah. And Corrales got the win. But that's where, like B said, you're supposed to be a professional as a ref. Like you're in there, you got to know when a fighter can't protect himself anymore. And when they're hurt, but they'll be able to fight through it, and especially at that level, like we're talking about championship level, you have to. It's a thin line, but you have to be able to understand the difference.
Right
now, Oh, go ahead, Mikey. Go ahead.
No. I mean, I was just going to say that. I mean, in the case with Charles Martin and Ortiz, like Martin was out. He was out of it, right? You know what I mean?
He was out.
But then, one of the stoppages that more recent stoppages was the Sean Porter fight. Now, that wasn't stopped by the ref, but that was stopped by his corner.
Yes.
But that's a situation where Porter looked like he can continue to fight, right? Got knocked down twice, but he
was more angry than hurt.
Yes.
Like.
Yeah.
And there's also a difference between, there's flat out knockouts or knockdowns, and there are flash knockdowns, which Ortiz, it looked like he was more so the 2 times he was knocked down more so with flat off of flash punches or whatever.
Yeah.
With the Porter Bud fight, I think he caught him with a good shot, but the second one I feel like he was a little off balance because he just got up from, you know what I mean? But clearly I feel like he could have continued to fight, right? But you guys are right. Refs have to be able to tell the difference. And I think a lot of those guys are seasoned enough to know, because you're closer than anybody else in that ring, right? You can look in a guy's eyes and tell that he's not there, right?
Right.
And you can tell that. So you have to, and it's not an easy job by any means, and I don't want to discount what the referees do and what they have to do. But I think you can find a balance in between stopping a fight when it's supposed to be stopped versus stopping it too early. I always look at, you can even tell now because the fighters want to protect each other at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So when a fighter, the one that's doing the damage, is looking at the ref like, bro, like he ain't dead, he's out of this, but I do have a job to do, but hey, you gonna step into this? And
it's crazy. Almost every time the ref, like every time the fighters do that, the ref just like, nope, keep going.
Yeah, I've never seen it.
Because at that point, it's like you're not gonna tell me how to do
right.
it.
Yeah. Don't tell me what to do.
At this point now,
you get back in there, you land a couple more shots, and we'll see.
Yeah. At this point, you're calling me out. You're making me look bad now. So I have to have you continue. But it's like, dude, like it's. I don't know. It's that, like you said, it's not an easy job to do, but at the same time, I feel like you have the closest advantage, or the closest vantage point anyway. You can tell when somebody's they're not there.
Yeah, and there's a lot that goes into it. The Wilder and Fury fight, the first one. Fury was, he looked like he was unconscious. Right, he got hit with the straight right. He got hit with a left hook on the way down. And he didn't move until the ref got to 6. Like nowadays, you don't even see them, start the count if a fighter looks the way Fury did after taking those hits, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And most of the time they just wave it off. They're like, no, you're done. He's out. Get the doctor in here.
Yeah.
But the referee let him get up and continue the fight, and he won the fight. And there's that goes into it as well, where you're saying, hey, when you're at this level, these guys are championship level fighters, and you have to give them the opportunity to come back and all this stuff. And I can appreciate that, but when you go and you look at some of the late stoppages, that's when that stuff kind of goes out the window to me, because it's life and death for the fighters in the ring.
Yeah.
That was one of the ones that we looked at, Emil Griffith fighting Benny Perret. This is a long time ago, but he got Perret in the corner, and he was beating on him, and Perret kind of ducked under the rope a little bit. His head was outside the ring, and Griffith kept on hitting him, and the ref was nowhere to be found, and just went on way too long, and Perret ended up dying about a week after that fight. Because you let the damage accumulate. There was another fight on there with Pernell Whitaker against this guy Hurtado, and that was a close fight. Hurtado had knocked Whitaker down a couple times earlier in the fight, and his corner told him, you need a knockout to win this fight. And he got Hurtado on the ropes. He hurt him. Hurtado was kind of just laying against the ropes, and Whitaker just started kind of landing consecutive hooks, right? Mm-hmm. And the guy wasn't defending himself. He wasn't throwing back. He wasn't even really standing at that point. And, the ref didn't do anything until he fell out of the ring.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and so it gets to the point where I understand why they jump in really early, because the other end of that is really, really ugly.
Mhm.
Yeah, and these refs need to be constantly evaluated. If something like that happens, where they take way too long and the fighter is seriously injured, they need to be done refereeing, right? Like that ref that let that fighter die, he should never referee again. And not just not even that to that extreme where you look at it and say, hey man, you took way too long to stop a fight. Not one of those ones like, hey, you could have stopped it a little bit earlier. Like, okay, whatever, right? Like if you start to see a major pattern, then you can say, hey, we gotta look at this guy. But the ones that just take way too long, it's just like you gotta call them in, and be like, why did you wait so long? And if you don't give the right answer, man, we can't let you referee anymore.
Yeah.
Right? Like that has to be taken seriously because, like I said, it's literally life or death. Same thing in UFC. Sometimes it's worse in UFC, right? Like because in UFC, when you get knocked down, there's no standing 8 count in UFC. You get knocked down, the fight is still going on until the ref jumps in. So sometimes people get knocked out on their feet and they hit the ground, but the ref's staying there, and then the fight comes in, just pounds the dude on the ground, his head's bouncing off the ground. And, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
And it's
they're
just like
flying hammer fists.
yeah. I mean, look, the Usman and Masvidal fight, right? Masvidal was knocked out, right? He got hit. He hit the ground. He kind of woke up a little bit, and then Usman came in with the hammer fist and knocked him out again. So he was knocked out twice.
Yeah.
Like those extra hammer fists weren't needed, but that's when the fight was stopped. So yeah. Like B said, I'm always going to err on the side of caution.
Yeah.
But you did mention, the Porter and Bud Crawford fight. What did you guys think about that stoppage and like the father? Is this his reason for stopping the fight?
I thought it was mad petty. Like in the interview after the fight, like he's talking about how Sean didn't listen to him during training camp, and I stopped it because I didn't like the way he prepared for the fight, and like it seemed like they had their disagreements leading up to the match, and he was just trying to show him up a little bit. And I think I mean personally, I had Porter winning up until the round where he got knocked down. And he may not have won the fight. He may have gotten knocked out. But I think at that point, you have to. He was fine. He wasn't disabled. He was able to defend himself. He was all there, and you got to let him finish that out. That's one of the biggest fights of his career. Mm-hmm. And to have your trainer, but especially your father, take that away. I mean, that was hard to watch.
And to hear him talk about it afterwards. Look, everybody has, everybody's relationship is different. And I've heard Sean Porter talk about it, and, fine. Okay. Like you can stick up for your dad. That's your dad. I get it.
Right.
But I always think like, if that wasn't his son and he did that, like you're finished. Like you're not gonna train anybody. And I think about that now. Like, what if his father still wants to train other fighters? Who's going to train with them? Like any top fighter, who's going to train with them?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So you asking this question brought up a question I had for you guys. Like, so we talk about the refs, sometimes being slow stopping the fight, and then clearly we highlighted some instances where it went on way too long, where they were super slow. How much of this do we put on the corner? Like when do we expect the corner to step in too when it's like going too long and obviously the ref is not seeing what I'm seeing?
Yes.
Like
yeah.
I mean, how much of that onus is on the corner to step in and stop it as well?
It's just as much, I think.
Yeah.
It's just as much because you have more of a vested interest in your fighter than the ref, obviously. And you're supposed to be watching the fight. So you see your person hurt. You should know better than anybody when they're hurt. And they're taking too many blows and the ref ain't stopping it. You need to get up there and throw in that towel.
Yeah.
Right. I understand, like, football, boxing, UFC, like you had that Warriors mentality of never give up, never quit. Right. No fighter wants to see the corner throw in the towel. Right. like waving the white flag. Essentially, nobody wants to see that. But you have to protect the fighter at the end of the day. You got to live to fight another day. So, yes, I put just as much on the corner as I do the referee.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I think in a certain way, it's one step less than the ref, right? Because I think that's the referee's purpose. Then, I mean, obviously,
Right.
refereeing the fight and everything, but you don't want to put the corner in a position where they have to throw in the towel for their fighter. That's going to damage their relationship potentially, right? And it's your job to be that you're their first line of defense. Like you said before, they have the best vantage point of what's going on. I mean, if you're all the way on the other side of the ring, in the different, maybe that corner can't see as well, that their fighter is in trouble and needing to get out of there. But when I do put it more on the corner is in these fights where, and Roy Jones was on this list a few times, and in those fights because he was just, clearly outclassing his opponent, right? That person had no business being in the ring with Roy Jones Jr. And he was toying with him, dancing around and putting on a show like Roy Jones does. And in those cases, even if your fighter's not like, unable to defend themselves or things like that, you have to understand that getting hit 20, 30 times around by Roy Jones is not going to be beneficial to your fighter moving forward, and there's no possibility of them actually really fighting back. When the talent gap is that wide, I put that more on the corner to stop those fights than on the referee, because the ref is there, if a guy gets really hurt and is just out of it, you want to stop it right there. But your corner, you should know that your fighter doesn't have any business being in the ring with this guy, and you don't let them take 12 rounds of punishment just because.
But even in those situations, usually the ref understands the talent gap, right? And we see it a lot of times on the lower level fights, right? Like you have a guy that's just really talented, he's up and coming, and he's fighting somebody that's not really going anywhere, or just mid-level, or not even mid-level, lower level fighter, and that person is just outclassing them. They don't even wait to the point where they get hurt. They're just like, all right, we've seen enough. Like you're not going to win this fight. There's nothing you can do here. We're just going to stop it now, just to save everybody some time, right? In the amateur level, because our nephew, he boxed amateur over at Towson. The men, you get wobbled, they stop in the fighting. So like yes, there are levels to it, but like you said, like when there's that big of a gap in the fight, and there's clearly you're not going anywhere with it. Sometimes you even hear the referee say it during rounds or in between rounds. He'll go up to the fighter and say, "Look, if you don't show anything this round, I'm stopping the fight." Like it's not even about getting hurt. Like if you don't do anything different, like to show that you can be in this fight, I'm just gonna stop the fight. And they do.
They do sometimes, but for me, at a professional level, that's not their job. It is first and foremost still a competition.
Yes.
And in boxing and even more so in MMA, one punch can change everything. And it's not your job to take that away if the person is not seriously hurt.
Yeah.
I think in those situations, it's more on the corner to say, we're not going to let you take that kind of punishment. There was a guy, I forget the fighter's name, but he was fighting against Sean O'Malley in the UFC. I want to say Chris Mutino maybe, but the point is he was a guy who, he wasn't getting hurt, right? Like he had a rock solid chin, but he didn't have the skills to be in there with Sean O'Malley, and O'Malley was just beating on him for the full fight, and he wasn't going to go down. He wasn't, you weren't going to knock him out or anything like that, and so you had that super wide gap in striking ability, and they just sat there and kind of watched it. They're like, this is fine. I know that he's hurt. I know that he can't catch O'Malley. I know he can't avoid these punches, but it is what it is. Go out there and take that beating. And I think though in those situations, it is on the corner to say, no, this isn't beneficial to you. This isn't beneficial to anybody. We're going to stop it.
Yeah. I agree with that. Like you have to, like I said, gauge your fighter and say, look, like you're not catching with anything. Nothing that I'm telling you to do is working. Nothing that you're doing out there is working. And we're just gonna go ahead and stop it now. right? Because you two gonna get yourself hurt. So yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. All right. Did you want to chime in, Mikey? You got anything?
No, I mean I
Oh,
agree.
okay.
I agree with everything you guys said. I mean, first and foremost, you know who your fighter is in there against. Like, I mean, listen,
yes, yeah.
you got all. I'm sure, those who train fighters, you have all the confidence in them in the world, right? But you also know that person across the ring,
You know
they're
what they're
they're,
about.
they're
Yeah,
certified. You know what I
yeah,
mean? So
yeah.
it's like,
You know your boy ain't as fast as Roy Jones,
right? You know what I'm saying?
Like,
In that particular fight you talking about, like this guy, that guy, I can't remember his name, but I think he had 20, 22 fights, and like 18 to 20 of them were knockouts.
yeah.
So this guy was supposed to be a big puncher or whatever. He was talking mad smack coming into that fight. And Roy beat him down. And he
Yeah.
even got upset when the fight it did eventually get stopped. He was looking at the ref like, "What are you doing?" It's like, "Yeah, man, he about to kill you. Like,
Yeah, you
you
getting
got to
worked.
stop this." Yeah,
Like there was one point in that fight where Jones punched him and the guy kind of wobbled and Jones hopped around behind him
yeah.
and the dude turned around and he got punched in the face again and got put down. Like I'm sure in that moment he thought that Roy was teleporting around the ring. Like there was no need for that fight to go on.
Yeah.
Those are always funny too when you see those fighters. Like, why'd you stop it? It's like, man,
Right.
if you could see yourself.
Right.
He's like, because you had to wake up to ask me that. That's why I stopped it. Like,
Right.
Every now and then you get the fighter that hug the ref like, okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. This dude was whipping my ass up. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, so what we got going on in the boxing world? Let's talk about what's going on currently since our last episode.
Well, I think we want to bring up one more thing in
Yeah.
regards to the fighter safety, right? Because we talked about just the ref stopping it and stuff like that, and corner stopping it, and the talent gap and how that can play into it. But I think another big thing is, and you saw this past summer, guys like Evander Holyfield who just don't know when to walk away from the ring.
Yeah.
You got Holyfield out there and fighting a UFC fighter, Vitor Belfort, a retired UFC fighter, and he got stopped in the first round, right? And this is a guy who was the heavyweight champion of the world, and he's just to that point where he shouldn't be anywhere near a ring, right? No. And you've got other guys going out there trying to make comebacks. You had Frank Mir try to get into a boxing ring with Pulev, and that went predictably horribly for Frank Mir.
Yes.
So what do you guys think about just like older fighters and them even getting sanctioned to get in the ring?
Go ahead, Mikey.
That's the biggest problem. There's a body out here that's sanctioning them to still fight. That's the part that's like, that's the ridiculous part. Then it goes down to their camps. Like, listen, there has to be a time. And I was checking out Fred Taylor and Shannon
I Am Athlete.
Well, they started
the
their
pivot.
own.
The pivot. It's called the pivot. Yeah.
And they were talking about talking about the AB situation, but they were saying it from a standpoint of Shannon's point was, okay, he doesn't have anyone around him that tells him like, hey, like chill out, like you left 30 million on the table in Oakland. Like he said, there wasn't anybody around him to say, listen, bro, get yourself together and get this money, then do whatever you got to do. But listen, you're a play away from getting 30 million. Mm-hmm. I use that to say, like, I mean, I would hope, especially with these older fighters, the Evander Holyfields, I would hope they got people in their camps that obviously they don't, because they let them get back out.
No, they don't. Yeah,
but it's a shame on them who, people that's a part of their camp that will let them get back out there and fight. The only person that I don't worry about getting in the ring is Mike Tyson, because I mean, he seems to still be in good shape, and it can hold his own out there to a certain extent. But like some of these other guys, man, shame on the camps, and then definitely shame on these sanctioning bodies that would allow that to happen. That's ridiculous.
But even with Mike Tyson, like Mike Tyson ain't trying to go out there and do real fights, right? It's hey, we gonna do a little 6-round, 8-round exhibition, no knockdowns, like we're not trying to kill each other. We just want to kind of spar a little bit. Like I think he understands it a little bit more, and yes, he's still in great shape, right? But Holyfield's like, no, I can still be champion.
Yeah. Right.
and that's kind of where I land on it. It's like, it's fun. I enjoyed the Tyson and Roy Jones fight.
I did. Yes.
They weren't fighting for real, but they're going out there just putting on a little show, and it's nice nostalgia for everybody who grew up watching them fight. I don't want to see guys like Evander Holyfield, who I was a big fan of, go out there and just get beaten until they die, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And it is one of those things where it's just like, this is the time where you have to save fighters from themselves. This kind of stuff happens in MMA also. They had Ken Shamrock and I think it was one of the Gracies. They're both over 50 getting into the cage. Like it's gross. And you're out there just kind of exploiting them because this is what they do. This is what they've been their whole lives, and of course they want to keep doing it. And you as the promoter, and then like I said, as the sanctioning body, you should be saying no. That time's over. You can go do other things, but they're saying, hey, you still got a big name. We could probably make some money off of this.
But that's a dirty side of boxing, right? Because for the most part, Holyfield can't get sanctioned anywhere because that fight was held in Florida, right? He couldn't get sanctioned in Nevada, California, any of those places where you had these major fights. They're like, nah, dude, go on.
Right.
But Florida's like, yes.
Right. Come on.
Yes.
Bring it on.
We get a cut. Yeah, come through. It's like you can always find a place that'll take your money. But yeah, like you said, it's about having the right people in your corner. It's even sometimes, honestly, I feel like Holyfield might have the right people in his corner, but he's just one of those hard heads that's just like, look, he gonna do what he want to do no matter what. Because I don't know who trained him. I'm not sure if it's the people that he came up with. I imagine it probably isn't. He probably had to go and find somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
But like you can always find people out there that will do it. But yeah, man. I think Frank Mir's situation. Yes, he's retired too. He's older. He shouldn't be fighting. But the guy he fought, he's retired too. Yeah. But the difference is, UFC fighters should not be jumping in the ring with professional boxers on a serious level. Well, when Mayweather fought McGregor, when he fought Conor, that wasn't a serious fight. People would think, oh yeah, Conor lasted 9 rounds with him or whatever. He didn't actually last 9 rounds. Like Mayweather carried him, because that's what a professional fighter can do. They can carry a fighter, a lesser fighter, and then put him away when he's ready to put him away without really seriously damaging them. But nobody believes
he did with Logan Paul.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. But nobody believes he stepped in there with Gervonta Davis and they're fighting for real. That's going more than a minute, right?
Right.
Like UFC fighters or MMA fighters, like they're two different sports, and I would say it's the same way, like the opposite way. You don't want to throw a boxer in an octagon with with somebody with a skilled MMA fighter. But especially in boxing, man, like you're not going to win that, and that's a dangerous situation to be in because you don't know how to box. You know what I'm saying? Like those guys, they'll say, oh yeah, I train in boxing and this and that, but you don't know how to box like that. Like you can hurt yourself, and if you're fighting somebody for real, you will hurt yourself. That's why all that we've seen from these UFC fights at this point, is boxing entertainment, and I think that's fine. I had no problem with that.
Yeah,
but people kind of blur those lines and they get confused, thinking that what they're seeing is real. It's not real. If it was real, you would see Tyron Woodley fighting a real boxer, he would die. Conor McGregor fighting a real boxer, he would die. And that's what you saw with Frank Mir. He was trying to fight a real boxer, even though they're both retired. He damn near died. Right? So yeah, that's a little different in that case. But yes, older fighters, retired fighters, sparring matches, exhibitions, those are fine. I got no problem with those. Those are lighthearted. We watched that Julio Cesar Chavez versus Hector Camacho Jr.
Where he claimed Canelo as his one true son. Man's real son fought on the undercard of that fight. He did not even allow him in the ring to celebrate at the
end. We could do a whole other show about that.
My man said he whispered in Canelo's ear, like, if I had a son, I would want it to be you.
He did his little retirement, his farewell speech to the crowd, and he brought Canelo in there, and he was just like, I love you. You're my son. You're my real son. Right? But that fight was entertaining. Like, we knew what it was. You know, but they're wearing headgear, they're protecting themselves, you know. It was fun. It was fun. Like, you can enjoy those fights for what they are, but like when they think they're fighting for real, nobody wants to see that.
I think Roy and Mike kind of set the blueprint of how you can put those fights on. They still be entertaining, still be must watch, or still have a good following that wants to see it.
Yeah,
and everybody's still safe. You know what I mean? Like when you have our ring kings, so to speak, that we last seen them on this, at the top of the top, and we want to keep them there. But then when you put them in the ring like that Evander situation, it was just bad. It was bad. If you're gonna do it, follow that blueprint that was set, and people are still gonna tune in. We're still gonna watch because these are our ring kings that we grew up with. You know what I mean? So we still gonna watch. I was excited. I was excited to tune in to the Roy and Mike fight.
Yeah.
And even, my lady, a couple of the fellas, their ladies wanted to see it because they knew those names, right? So it was still a sellable fight. So you can do it that way if you're going to do it. Otherwise, keep these guys out of the ring, man.
And they made it a whole event. They had the concerts there. Snoop was there and everything, and it was just a fun night. Even if in the post-fight interview, Roy couldn't lift his arms anymore, but he was all right though. He was just tired.
He was tired.
Yeah.
We mentioned the Floyd and Logan Paul fight. They went the distance or whatever, and afterwards, Logan Paul's smiling because, hey, I got to be in the ring with Floyd for however long. That's a dream come true. Floyd's got another exhibition coming up in February. They haven't announced who he's fighting yet. It's going to be on a helipad at the top of a building in Dubai. But it's going to be fun. Right? It's going to be fun to watch. But while seeing these guys get in there and pretend like they're still the real thing is not fun for anybody.
No. And fans got to understand the difference between that stuff, right? Like entertainment and boxing is entertainment, but like what they're doing specifically is just for entertainment. It's not sport. But the times we live in, social media is going to eventually pit a real fight between a YouTuber and a real boxer, like for real, or
I don't think it'll be Jake Paul. I think the Paul brothers are a little smarter than that. But it'll be somebody trying to follow in their footsteps.
Yes,
who gets in the ring with a real fighter and gets themselves seriously hurt.
Yes, So, it's working its way towards that, right? I think we always get these debates between MMA and boxing, which I think is silly to me because they're two completely different sports. But there's always seems to be that pit against each other, who are the better fighters or whatnot, which is always funny to me because, we always hear these debates of, oh, well, so-and-so couldn't beat so-and-so in the octagon, right? But boxers never try to go fight MMA, right? But you always get MMA fighters try to go and do boxing because I think at some point, once they get a little skills in striking, even Usman, he learned how to throw a little jab and he's unstoppable in UFC. And he's like, I could box. And everybody's just like, no, you can't. Like that jab that you're throwing will get you destroyed against low level boxers, right? So I can see that happening though. I can see some, social media hyping up some fight. It won't, like I said, it won't be a Paul brother production or anything like that, and somebody will get seriously hurt. And that'll be unfortunate. All right.
Speaking of, somebody possibly getting seriously hurt, we got a Ryan Garcia sighting. He's out here talking about throwing hands, which is not a thing that he's really been interested in lately. But he was scheduled to fight Jojo Diaz in November, and he picked up an injury before the fight, so Devin Haney stepped in. Had a good solid fight there. But now Ryan Garcia is kind of chirping on social media again. His promoter Oscar De La Hoya is out there, throwing shots at people, and they're talking about Isaac Cruz, who's coming off a pretty impressive fight against Gervonta Davis, but a fight he lost on points. A good solid fighter. Nobody's going to confuse him for a top tier contender or anything like that, but a good solid fighter. And De La Hoya's camp is saying they made him a great offer, more than he made in the Tank fight, and that he turned it down. And of course, his Cruz's manager is coming out, or his promoter is coming out and saying that's not true. A fight like Cruz and Garcia needs to be on pay-per-view, not that little fake network, DAZN, so we can actually get these guys paid, blah, blah, blah. And they're going back and forth.
An obvious shot from De La Hoya because he got booted from DAZN, right?
Well, no. This was Cruz's manager.
Oh, Cruz,
De La Hoya is still out there, but
is he still with DAZN? I thought.
Yeah, they are. Like he lost Canelo and them, but they're still out there on DAZN.
Gotcha.
I'm just gonna stop and say DAZN is fantastic. All right, love it.
Yes, we love it.
It's $100 a year. You get all a ton of fights. So that's a great product.
We pay for it, so we love it.
Yeah. So what do you guys think about a potential Isaac Cruz and Ryan Garcia fight?
Potential? Ain't happening, man. Not now. They don't want this fight. Listen, I was thinking when you guys said earlier that we were going to talk about this, I thought to myself, people that watch this channel are going to think that Mike is a Ryan Garcia hater. I'm going to be dubbed that.
And they're going to be right.
They're going to be right, yeah.
How many people love Ryan Garcia?
Yeah,
everybody who doesn't love boxing knows who Ryan Garcia is.
Listen, man, he got to get away from Oscar. He got to get away from Oscar if this is what he wants to do. If he want to bull crap like they doing, then Oscar's the perfect person to be with. But if he really wants to box and he really want to get his name out there, he got to get away from him, because someone else in Golden Boy, I can't think of his name right now, a high-ranking official, he even came out and said that earlier this year, when the rumors were about this fight, he even came out and said, nah, we don't want to do Cruz right now. We want a tune-up fight.
He said he said we want a softer fight, which I thought was a very unfortunate choice.
Oh, is that what he said?
Yeah. So they never wanted this fight from the beginning. Now, what's in question is it that they're hiding this from Ryan Garcia? Is it that he really wants it and they're just making it seem like they're trying to get it, but they're not? Because that's what Cruz's manager or promoter is saying. Right. That, hey, you need to look and see if these guys are really trying to get you these fights, because trust me, they aren't.
He said, we got a great offer for you. Let me know where I should send it.
Yeah. Yeah. So that is the thing that's in question for me now. Is it that Ryan Garcia doesn't want these fights either? He's just part of fluff, or is it that they're hiding this shit from him? But even Leonard Ellerby stuck his head into this one and was like, bullshit. Like, they don't want this fight. There's no way that they'll fight Cruz right now coming off of a long layoff like this. No way they'll do it. So, I wouldn't mind seeing the fight. I like Cruz as a fighter, and I still recognize Garcia as one of the up-and-coming
but look at how much it's hurting him to say that.
Yeah, that one hurt to say. That one hurt to say. But so I wouldn't mind seeing the fight. But, I just don't see it happening no time soon.
So I think well, I know Oscar has been pushing him to take tougher fights for a while. This is how the beef between him and Oscar started initially because he just didn't want to do I think it wasn't just one fight, right? It was like a couple of fights where Ryan Garcia didn't want to do it, but it was one in particular where it made Oscar say, "Yo, Ryan Garcia ain't the fighter I thought he was," right? Which is something you don't do as a promoter. You don't put down your own fighters. Those are things that you take care of behind the scenes.
Yeah.
But obviously Oscar, he didn't allude to it. He just flat out said it. Like Ryan ducks people. Canelo alluded to it, right? Like you mentioned before, Mikey, where he feels like Ryan Garcia don't put boxing first, and there's some maturation that needs to happen on his side when it comes to that. And I think all that is true, and I honestly think he hasn't fought since that Luke Campbell fight. He got dropped in that fight. Yeah. That was the first time he got dropped, and that was like a real knockdown. That wasn't no slip or nothing like that. He got hit with something he didn't see. I think it hurt him a little bit. Now, granted, he came back and knocked out Campbell, which was impressive. I think that messed with him a little bit, right? I think in his head he's thinking, man, Campbell wasn't somebody I thought could hit hard, and he hit me kind of hard. And I've been talking trash about Tank Davis. Well, Tank hits me that way, right? And I've seen Tank, sleep Leo Santa Cruz. You know what I'm saying? When we're talking about fighters that, when you see guys drop in, the ref automatically stops it. That was one of those fights where he gets hit. As soon as he gets hit with that uppercut, everybody's like, nope.
It's over.
It's over, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's in the back of Ryan Garcia's mind a little bit. And I think he's taking this time to kind of get himself right mentally. And, look, he's young enough to do it, to say, hey, look, let me just kind of refocus and when we get to that level, you got to have that confidence. And if your confidence is shaking a little bit, maybe you need a little break to get yourself together. So maybe that's what he's doing right now. But no, you're not going to come back to fight Pitbull Cruz, right? You're not going to fight who's the other one that Haney just fought?
Jojo Diaz.
Jojo Diaz. Like, those are some tough fighters. Like, those are the two fights you don't want to take. So yes, what his manager was saying was correct. It was the wrong choice of words. But you do want a softer fight. You want a tune-up fight. You want somebody that you can go in there and wash and doesn't have any real chance of hurting you. You absolutely want that. Like, boxing that's why we call it the sweet science. There's a way to go about things. When you have a long layoff, you don't jump right back in there with the best. You have one or two tune-ups, and then you raise the level of competition from there.
Well, Errol Spence does.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
He jumps in. He don't care who it is. He jumping right in there. And I respect that.
Yeah, I don't agree with it, but yes, I respect it too. I mean, I don't agree. I agree with you. I don't agree with his method, right? Because even his next fight, Ugas is no cakewalk.
Not at all.
Yeah, but Ryan Garcia, man, like, if it is that you would think that getting floored against Luke Campbell and then coming back and winning the way he did would give him confidence, right?
Yeah.
But if it's sending him a different direction, and he's kind of, maybe he's in that Victor Ortiz headspace where he's like, I don't deserve to get beat up like this. And like you said, you got to go away and build yourself back up. You can take lesser fights, take tune-up fights, get your confidence back. But the key part of this is you got to stop talking.
Right.
You got to stop talking to and about other fighters because they already don't respect you. And when you eventually do get in the ring with them, which if you want this to be your career, you are going to have to get in the ring with at least one of those guys at some point. It's going to be more personal than it otherwise would be, and you're going to get beat down. So yeah, he needs to mature. He needs to figure out if this is really the path he wants to take, and get himself right. Like you said, get himself right mentally, and then go about building himself up or back up the right way. I don't really see it with Ryan. I don't think that he's a guy that, I think he'll take one of those fights. I think it'll be Tank, and I think he's going to get obliterated, and that's going to be kind of the end of Ryan Garcia.
I'm not even sure if he'll fight Tank, man. I think
I want to see it so bad. I want to see that fight so bad.
You know what he's reminding me of right now is a less urban Adrian Broner.
I think he might.
He's immature and he kind of doesn't really take the boxing that seriously. But he's got the talent. and everybody can see the talent, and that's going to get him fights when he wants fights.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's taking it seriously enough to make him a real contender with that group.
I think he might go the way of Keith Thurman, right? Like Keith Thurman is, I think everybody considers him a good fighter, right? But Keith Thurman is very selective. I don't want to say ducky, but he's very selective of who he fights. He's fought Sean Porter, and that was a good fight. And he fought Pacquiao. And I think he thought
which was
Pacquiao
a much better fight than he thought it was going to be.
Yeah. Yes, he did. He didn't expect that level of competition coming from Pac-Man at that age. So that caught him by surprise, and he hasn't fought since then. But Bud Crawford, he's like, of course I'm not taking that fight. Errol Spence, of course not. Well, I look stupid. Like he's not going to take those fights. But he'll have a fight that he'll prepare for, like he can get himself up for, that he feels like he can win that fight. But other fighters, like he's not going to risk it with. And I think that's going to be Ryan Garcia. I think he'll assess these fighters a little bit more and say, okay, after fully seeing who's out there who can do what, maybe I'll fight Kambosos, right? Maybe I'll fight, maybe if Teofimo doesn't really, he doesn't really step it up and it looks like there's some flaws in his game, maybe I'll fight Teofimo. He looks like somebody I can handle, something like that. But I think he's gonna really take his time and assess everybody before he says, all right, I'll fight you. But I don't think he'll fight Tank. I don't think he'll do it.
You said he's gonna be like the NABF Continental Division 3 champion, and just kind of hold on to that belt for as long as he can.
I mean, it is sad though because he is talented.
Yeah,
he is very skilled. He is a talented fighter. I like the Broner comparison because Broner was supposed to be the next Floyd. He was Floyd without the discipline, right? Yeah. But yeah, man, I just don't. I don't trust Oscar anyway. So that whole camp situation is just, it's in shambles, and it seems like, I agree with you too, Jose. Like after Campbell put him down, I think that changed his mindset a little. But after that, it seemed like to me after that exhibition that he wanted to set up with Pacquiao didn't go through, it was all downhill from there too.
Yeah.
So you're 23 years old talking about setting up an exhibition.
Yeah, and it's just weird because I feel like you got Oscar, who is about getting the money, right?
Yeah.
And he about getting the money now. That's why he threw Canelo in the ring with Floyd before people say he was ready to be.
Yeah.
Right? So I think that Oscar's willing to throw him in there if it's going to make the money.
Yeah.
And then you got the guy behind him saying, no. We want a softer fighter because we looking long-term with this kid. So, again, I just go back to him making sure he's in the right place if this is the career choice he wants to. If he wants to stay on Instagram and get his views up, then he's doing the right thing right now.
Yeah. But like I said, throw him in there with somebody like a Nakatani or somebody like that. Like tough, but like he ain't gonna hurt you. You know what I'm saying? Like
But you also want him to win the fight though.
He could be Nakatani. Yeah.
He could.
He
Will
would.
he?
Like, Nakatani gets, like he makes his money off of being that hard to knock out guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't have the stamina, he can put you away later on because he's gonna keep coming at you. But like skill wise, he's not on Ryan Garcia's level at all.
Yeah, no, but there's a lot of guys who aren't on Ryan Garcia's level who I think would beat Ryan Garcia.
Like who?
Like, like the top 10, 11, 12 lightweights that you can name. Because I think it's a mental thing with Ryan Garcia.
But I think those guys are probably just better than Ryan Garcia.
Well, no, okay, but here's one. But skill wise,
yeah, I see what you're saying.
But you look at him and say, hey, this guy's better than Ryan Garcia. He may not be more skilled, but you think he's better because you think he'd beat Ryan Garcia. Like George Kambosos isn't isn't more skilled than Ryan
your
Garcia,
point.
but I think George Kambosos beats Ryan Garcia pretty easily.
Yeah. I see what you're saying.
The funny thing about it is Garcia has been painting this fight with Pitbull as a tune-up.
Yeah.
He called this a tune-up.
That's
I want to take this fight as a tune-up to show the people that he gave Tank a better fight, and I'm going to destroy him.
Yeah.
So they don't know what they're going to do over there, man.
No.
Yeah.
If you're taking your time coming back, like B said, stop talking. Just come back and knock one of these dudes out if that's what you're going to do. But stop talking, because when you do get in the ring with these guys, they're going to try to knock your head off. I know not for a fact, but I know from where Tank's from, Baltimore, Maryland. I know Tank is going to try to knock his head off when they get in the ring.
And he would succeed.
Yeah.
Like Cruz is going to try to knock his head off too. Yeah. Like all those lightweights, because he's been running his mouth nonstop and not fighting. Every one of those guys, if he gets in the ring with them, they're going to try to knock his head off. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't seem to be Ryan's speed. You know, like that's not what he wants out of this boxing thing.
He gonna go down and wait and just fight some lighter guys and just some tomato cans and just talk his trash and you know, like that's gonna be his speed. Like he's not gonna really jump in there with some of these killers. Yo.
Right.
Like,
he's got 21 fights right now. He's gonna retire at the age of 39 with 28 fights.
Yeah, people watching this like these guys really hate Ryan Garcia.
listen, they gonna really think I'm hating after this, yo. Like I think it's greater than a small percentage chance that not saying his next fight, but one of his next fights is against a YouTuber. Not the Paul brothers. The Paul brothers are too big. I think it's a greater than smaller chance that is against a YouTuber or like, you know, a content creator. You know, like he's always on there, right? Yeah, he's gonna start some beef with somebody on Instagram or whatever, and then that's gonna manifest itself into a boxing match. He already trying to do exhibitions, man. That's gonna be the next step because he's gonna look at it and say, "Now this is a safe fight. This is the type of fight I want."
That's not even a safe route because Devin Haney has already shown the willingness to cross over into that domain.
Hey, speaking of Haney, I'm going to say something nice about Ryan Garcia, and I have said that he is a good fighter. He's very talented. But Devin Haney, I don't know if y'all saw Devin Haney's comment, but he said that he sparred with Garcia and he sparred with Tank, and Garcia is just as quick as Tank.
But Haney and Tank don't get along either. So that's
right.
You know,
I mean, that's what I'm saying. I don't know.
He's never gonna admit under any circumstance. If you ask him, you can list 20 fighters and he'll say all 20 of those fighters were better fighters than Tank. He will never give Tank any props, yo.
And I feel like that's part of it. And also, you know, Lomachenko was very complimentary of Ryan Garcia. He said Tank wasn't, you know, he wasn't the guy that people think he is. He talked down some of the other lightweights. He was very complimentary of Ryan Garcia. I think a lot of those guys are angling to get in the ring with Ryan Garcia because they know what Ryan Garcia is and they know they can put him away. And it's a big deal because he has a big name. He has a big following. He is very talented. And you don't want to be the third person to beat Ryan Garcia. You want to be the first person to beat Ryan Garcia.
That's true.
You know, because it's like Ricky Hatton, right? Like he got in there with Floyd, and Floyd made him run into the turnbuckle. Then he got in there with Pacquiao. Pacquiao put him to sleep. Who cares if you fight Ricky Hatton at that point?
Right.
Yeah. All right. Look, we covered a lot, man. Thank you guys for supporting the show so far. It's episode 2. We have a whole lot more in store for you guys. If you like these topics that we're talking about, you know, leave us comments, you know, wherever you're listening to this on whatever podcast device that you're using to listen to us. Leave a comment on there. You can hit us up on our social media.
5-star review.
And a 5-star review. And make sure you're following us on our social media, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Ring Kings Pod. Okay. And you got any questions, just tweet at us, send us a DM or, you know, all that good stuff. And and also you can leave a comment on the video on YouTube Okay, Ring Kings Podcast, and make sure you subscribe. But Mikey, B, appreciate you coming through, and we will see you guys next time. Peace out.